My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 70 fight card, giving you my DraftKings picks, predictions, and plays. Before I jump in, head on over to WeWantPicks.com and absorb all this incredible DraftKings content. We have a full DraftKings optimizer, which you see here. This is a tool. You come in here, you click a few buttons, and it will build lineups for you. It'll build 150 lineups for you, and it'll be pre-populated every Friday by 6 p.m. with the projected scoring for each fighter, the projected ownership for each fighter. You come in here, you click a few buttons, and it'll build you a lineup. We also have incredible content where we have a DraftKings cheat sheet. Again, this will be populated after weigh-ins when everything is final. You're going to get the DraftKings ownership projections. You're going to get the DraftKings scoring projections, and you're going to get leverage. Leverage is a proprietary, which means only us, calculation that puts together different formulas that calculate the percentage chance of this person winning, the amount of points they're probably going to score, and the ownership. It helps you separate yourself from the pack when you're building these large tournament lineups, right? The name to that game is getting an optimal lineup and hopefully doing it differently than other people have. All of this will be available to you for only $10 a month. It also gets our bets, our picks, and everything else. Oh, and wait, there's more. The last thing I will mention here is our DraftKings ownership projections 2 weeks in a row have been the best in the industry, period. Better than Roto Grinders, better than all these massive companies. And that's because we have 5 or 6 different sources. We got Josh behind the scenes crunching the numbers. He takes all of these different sources and he just weighted calculations on every single one of them to come up with our very own number. Our ownership projections are not the same as everybody else. You know what everybody else is doing? They're buying it from one of the big companies and just copy pasting it like, oh, look at it. No. Ours is a unique number. We didn't buy it from anybody. We're putting these together on our own, and it has been working out for us because 2 weeks in a row, we have had the best DraftKings ownership projection numbers in the industry, period. End of story. WeWantPicks.com. At the top, click become member. It's $10. You get all of this, including the fighter rankings by contest, the fighter rankings by salary down here. Literally anything you could ever want for DraftKings, FanDuel, and so much more. Let's go ahead and talk about these fights. As always, we are going to start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. We have already lost Jose Johnson versus Garrett Armfield. We are down to 12 fights, and opening up the card now, we have Hailey Cowan taking on AILIN PEREZ. Hailey Cowan making her UFC debut, so there's not going to be any stats here. So let's go ahead and move to AILIN PEREZ. This is tricky because Hailey Cowan is big. She's strong. She's long. She's powerful. She can wrestle. She's got takedown defense. Like, she's good, but it is her UFC debut. She's not very dangerous. AILIN PEREZ, we've seen her twerk a million times over, including at weigh-ins before her last fight, and then she went in there and lost that fight, and it's kind of embarrassing. It's tricky. There's a tricky fight to break down because they're both sort of even in MMA experience, but AILIN PEREZ, more likely than not, has been training this for a lot longer, is embedded in this culture. She has wanted to be a professional fighter for a very long time, working her jiu-jitsu and things of that nature, where Hailey Cowan sort of pivoted her career later in life. Hailey Cowan is bigger, stronger, the better athlete. AILIN PEREZ is likely the more technical, skilled, actual fighter. I'm not going to put either one of these women in my lineup. Jacob likes AILIN PEREZ to win. That $7,600 price point is solid. The problem with this for me is that AILIN PEREZ is stupid tough. I don't know if I can trust her to go out there and get it done because she's going to get the takedowns, right? She's going to be looking to get it to the ground. Hailey Cowan has very good takedown defense. Incredibly athletic, phenomenal hips, works whizzers and trips to keep herself standing. So I'm going to fade this, but if I wasn't fading this, AILIN PEREZ is the play. Hailey Cowan is not going to win by finish. She's pretty expensive in this spot. It is her UFC debut. And AILIN PEREZ, as Jacob said, yes, she lost to Stephanie Egger, and you're going to see second round submission. But you watch that fight back, it wasn't the mauling that you remember it to be. But anyway, neither one of these women is going to be in my lineup. But AILIN PEREZ, if you need somebody in that underdog spot, she's the better play than Hailey Cowan. Then we have Nurullo Aliyev taking on Rafael Alves. I like Nurullo Aliyev. They call him Baby Khabib. I've said this a million times. He is not as good as Khabib. He's not a relentless wrestler. He will wrestle. He will continue to look for takedowns, but he'll also strike. And he's got really nice, powerful, relentless takedowns. He'll get you against the cage. He'll work there. He will not stop working. He's not going to shoot doubles up the middle, but he'll get you against the cage and he'll work you to the ground. I like him at $8,800. He is fighting Rafael Alves. Yes, he lost to Drew Dober, but he landed one of the cleanest left hooks anybody will ever land on anybody. But it was Drew Dober, so nothing happened. That exact same strike lands on Narulo Aliv, and I'm in a lot of trouble because I've got some money on him as well. I like Narulo Aliv to get the takedowns, get the control, and ride out Rafael Alves the same way Damir Ismagulov did last year. So Narulo Aliv at $8,800, I do like him. He will likely be in my lineup. Then we got Joe Selecki, Carl Deaton. You need Joe Selecki in your lineup. That's the end of this breakdown. $9,400 is not cheap by any means, but he's the one who has a full camp. He's getting a short notice opponent. His short notice opponent is also a wrestler. Joe Selecki's a wrestler. His short notice opponent is a decent striker. Joe Selecki's a decent striker. His short notice opponent is a grappler. Joe Selecki's a grappler. Joe Selecki does everything Carl Deaton does, but he does it better. He's had the full camp. He's been in the UFC. He's got wins over some good people, and he's proven how tough he is. De Silva dropped him bad, but he kept it together, worked his way back up, and ended up winning that fight. The reason $9,400 is a solid price point is I do see him winning by submission, by stoppage. He's the full camp guy coming in here ready to go. Traditionally, he does not score very well in his decisions, but I don't see this being a decision. So I like Joe Selecki to get this done. Carl Deaton's not going to have any data here because he's a short notice UFC debut, but I just don't see Carl Deaton getting this done, unfortunately for him. Then we have Charles Johnson taking on Ode Osborne. This is an interesting fight. Charles Johnson, we've seen him fight 3 grapplers in a row. Muhammad Makayev, Zumagulov, and Jimmy Flick. He stepped up on short notice for Jimmy Flick. He is stepping up on short notice again right now for Ode Osborne. I think Charles Johnson is going to win this fight. I think he's going to dance around, be the faster, more technical striker. I don't necessarily know if he's going to score enough points to really make this worth it, but he does put up numbers. I mean, he did finish Jimmy Flick, but Jimmy Flick was coming back after years away. It was clear that dude was not ready for a fist fight. Zumagulov fight, a lot of people think Charles Johnson may have won that, but he still put up big numbers because his volume is crazy. He just puts that out there. He's fighting Ode Osborne. Ode Osborne is a striker. This is the first time we're going to see Charles Johnson fight a striker in the UFC. He's coming off this bad knockout loss to Tyson Nam, but Tyson Nam hits like a freight train. His loss before that was Manel Kape. He was beating Manel Kape. I get it. It was the first round, but he was beating him up until the last second of the first round. Then he got caught with a flying knee. But he's proven to have power. I mean, look at all these wins. First round. He's proven that he has power. He's proven he can deal with pressure, like against CJ Vergara. I do like Charles Johnson to win this fight. I personally am not going to spend the $9,000, but he should win. And it may look like that Zumagulov fight with 100 and something significant strikes to put some numbers on the board. I don't imagine there's a lot of wrestling. I think it's just going to be Charles Johnson dancing around, landing strike after strike after strike, and Ode Osborne trying to keep it technical but powerful, but being a step behind. So I think Charles Johnson wins. I personally am not going to spend the $9,000, but it's not a crazy price point for somebody that should win this fight and does have decent numbers when he wins. We got Victor Martinez taking on Jordan Leavitt. This is basically an even money fight. Victor Martinez is a fast, powerful striker. He brings that Mexican fighting spirit. His kicks are not great, but his boxing is very sharp. He has very good power. Very good power. He does have a takedown in his Contender Series win, but that's not what he's looking to do. He's a striker who's always dangerous throughout the fight. He'll keep that power. His BJJ defense is solid, but he ends up in a lot of bad BJJ positions, meaning he's got solid jiu-jitsu defense, but he ends up constantly in these positions where he's defending submissions. That's why I think Jordan Leavitt wins. You should probably have Jordan Leavitt in your lineup, as much as I hate him and his style. I hate that like BJJ or bust grappling style. It absolutely drives me nuts. With that being said, Jordan Leavitt should get the takedown, as we've seen him with a little bit of success against Paddy Pimblett. He should get the takedown. And then once he gets to the ground, we've seen Victor Martinez just give up positions. The dude is just like handing over arms and necks. And he's been able to survive other opponents, but Jordan Leavitt should just be a little above that, and he should be able to get it done. So Jordan Leavitt likely wins this fight, probably wins by submission. Therefore, his $8,000 price tag is worth it. Then we have Gabriela Fernandez, UFC debut, taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius. We got a lot of UFC debuts on this card, and we have a lot of female wrestlers and grapplers. Gabriela Fernandez is not that. She's a powerful striker. She's big, she's strong, she's fast, she's technical. She does have solid BJJ, but doesn't necessarily have the wrestling. And she's not really looking to get people to the ground. She's looking to strike and use that big power. And then if it hits the ground, she'll use her BJJ, which actually could be a problem because she's fighting Jasmine Jasudavicius. Jasmine Jasudavicius is like a Canadian national champion wrestler, something to that effect. She's a high-level wrestler that has competed at a very large scale, and she's had success. This Kay Hansen fight, she had 2 takedowns, had a nice scramble, got that win, and she was a decent underdog. The last fight, though, she did not look good. Natalia Silva was able to defend the takedowns, dance around, and gave Jasmine some trouble. This is a tricky fight. I'm probably going to stay away from this fight personally, but $7,800 is good value for Jasmine if you think she'll get her wrestling going. This could go one of 2 ways. This could be Jasmine looking like she did against Natalia Silva, getting touched up, blasted in the face, and losing this fight. Or she could get the takedowns, and Gabriela Fernandez, her opponent, likes to play off her back. Throws up triangles, she will just lay on her back doing 1996 jiu-jitsu, not working up, not trying to get scrambles, not trying to get back to her feet. If that is the case, Jasmine will score a ton of points. Personally, I think Gabrielle is going to be able to get it done, but I might be basing too much of that off of Jasmine's last performance and not enough of it off of the body of her work and her style. So Jasmine, if she's going to get the takedowns going, she's going to score 1,000,000 points because style-wise, Gabrielle is just going to lay on her back, give up the control time, and Jasmine's going to get it done. So you make your decision there. $7,800 is a solid price point if you think she can get her wrestling going. Then you got Trevor Peek and Eric Gonzalez. This is another interesting fight. Trevor Peek, UFC debut. He's a high-pressure guy. He only has one pace, which is just come forward full speed. He literally just starts winging punches, charging forward. If he's close, he'll grab your legs. He'll try to take you down. If he's at distance, he's going to move around like crazy, throw big shots, try to get it done. The problem is, yes, he's dangerous. He's got power. He wings those punches. He is not technical. This dude is loose. He is sloppy. I just cannot trust a loose, sloppy UFC debut at $8,900. He's fighting Eric Gonzalez. Eric Gonzalez has had a little bit of a rough run. He fought Jim Miller. He got knocked out by Jim Miller, which was surprising. Jacob pointed out that he got knocked out. I think it was with a left hook. So let's just say it was a left hook. Then his next fight, he came out and his right hand was glued. You're not going to catch me with a left hook again. So he made those adjustments. Terrence McKinney, he blasted Terrence McKinney. He cracked Terrence McKinney. Then McKinney got his wrestling going and then got him down, got him submitted. So he has had 2 tough guys to start his UFC career. Eric Gonzalez is decent. He's a long striker. He uses range well. He likes to pick you apart. So contrasting styles. Trevor Peek wants to charge in, throwing wild. Eric Gonzalez wants to keep the distance. I do think Trevor Peek wins this fight because Eric does best at distance, and Trevor's not going to give him distance. He's just going to come rushing in. I'm not going to spend the money on Trevor Peek, though, because he's just too wild. I'm not going to spend a lineup slot on a guy that just comes out there with reckless abandon. Eric Gonzalez is a very, very good underdog at $7,300, and you should probably consider having him in your lineup because Trevor Peek rushing in like a wild man could absolutely get caught. Eric Gonzalez got some technical striking, has some power. I think Trevor Peek wins the fight, but you're going to need underdogs in your lineup, and Eric Gonzalez is not a bad one. Then we have Johan Lioness, and he is taking on Mike Malott. Johan Lioness, These are both sort of grapplers, if you will. Yohan Lainez has insane power, though. Big, big power in his hands. He can KO you almost with anything. He throws wild, heavy overhands. It's not technical, but he wings those out there. And then he will start to shoot his clean double legs right up the middle and try to work you to the ground. He's got decent BJJ, solid, I'll say solid BJJ, just pure grappling between his takedowns and his jiu-jitsu. He can get it done, and he's got power in his hands. He's a very dangerous guy. I think $7,000 is a great price. He's fighting Mike Malott. Mike Malott is not incredible at anything, right? He's this new generation of fighter. He's young, he's athletic, he trains everything equally, and he's good everywhere. He's got a loose striking style, so he can box and kickbox. His hands can be low. He does get a little hittable. Somebody like Yohan can connect. That's going to be a big problem for him. But he can grapple as well. He's a pretty solid wrestler, pretty solid jiu-jitsu guy. I personally think, and a few trolls or goblins or mama's basement boys were very upset when I said I think Yohan is probably the better pure grappler. I stand by that. I think Yohan is probably the better pure grappler. I just do. If you disagree, then disagree. Make your own YouTube channel. I don't care. I think Mike Malott probably squeaks out a win with his athleticism. He is just more athletic. He should be a little more technical on the feet, and he should be able to hopefully defend some of the jiu-jitsu. With that being said, Yohan at $7,000. These guys basically have the exact same record. Mike Malott beat Mickey Gall. Yohan's got way more power. I think he's just the better raw grappler. But even if you say the grappling's even, the raw power might be the difference. So Yohan, another very good underdog. I think Mike Malott probably squeaks out a win here because he is just more athletic, probably the more complete fighter. But Yohan having that power, Mike keeping his hands a little lower than he should. Yohan's probably not a bad play at $7,000. Then we have the return of Tatiana Suarez. She hasn't fought in almost 4 years. Let's look at who she beat. Look at these records. This isn't Amanda Nunes. This is Nina Ansaroff, who is now Nina Nunes. Fine, beat her. She's very tough. Carla Esparza stopped her. Carla Esparza is a multiple-time world champion. Tatiana Suarez stopped her. Alexa Grasso stopped her. Alexa Grasso is fighting for a title in 1 week. You hear my echo going off. Fighting for a title in 1 week. Tatiana Suarez made easy work of every single one of these women. 4 takedowns, 9 takedowns, 2, 4, 3. If this Tatiana Suarez shows up, it should be an absolute mauling, and $9,600 is the easiest money anybody has ever spent in the history of DraftKings. But she has been away for 4 years, and she's fighting Montana De La Rosa. Montana De La Rosa is also a wrestler. Is she the same caliber wrestler of Tatiana Suarez? No, she's not. But she's a very good wrestler who didn't just start training MMA and wrestling. She wrestled. She competed. She learned how to wrestle first and then transitioned to MMA. She did not look great in this Macy Barber fight at all. She had 1 takedown, one scramble there, but she was also taken down, didn't get her hands going. I think Tatiana Suarez gets it done. I think she'll get the takedowns. I think could potentially win by submission or TKO, potentially. There's a lot going on at Tatiana Suarez. She beat cancer. She's got a wild neck injury. I think she has a knee injury. Like, there's been a lot going on that has kept her out for 4 years. I don't know exactly what she's going to look like. I don't trust her with my money, meaning she's a minus 800 favorite on the sports books. I'm not going to bet on that. I do trust her with a DraftKings lineup spot. There's very few people in this card that like you're positive about. I like her. And I like Joe Selecki. Those two should probably be the anchor of your lineup and then build around it. I like Montana De La Rosa quite a bit. She could absolutely pull out an upset if Tatiana Suarez is just the shell of what she was. But I have to assume that she is what she was. We have to assume that. Maybe a little slower, right? She's a little older, a little slower. But we have to assume she's still this incredibly talented wrestler who will go out there and just maul people. With that being said, I got to go Suarez here, even though Montana De La Rosa, solid grappler, solid striking, like really putting it all together. It's just a tough pull. So I will get the $9,600 in my lineup. We got a couple of heavyweights. Augusto Sakai taking on Dontel Mays. Here's the problem. Augusto Sakai's on a 4-fight skid. Spivak stopped him. Tuivasa stopped him. Rosenstruck stopped him. Overeem stopped him. This guy hasn't won a fight in a couple of years, but he is still a technical striker. He's a Muay Thai striker. He's a bit sloppy, seems to be a bit used up, doesn't seem to care anymore. Now, this is a murderer's row. Tai Tuivasa, we know, is an animal. Rosenstruck hits like a freight train. Alistair Overeem, one of the greatest striking heavyweights of all time. And then Sergey Spivak has been on an absolute tear lately. He's fighting Don'Tale Mayes. Don'Tale Mayes likely loses to every single one of those people that also beat Augusto Sakai. I still think Don'Tale Mayes wins this fight. We've seen that he can wrestle. He had 6 takedowns against Josh Parisian. He took down Martinez as well. He's got power in his hands. He can be tough. He can go the distance with Olympic wrestlers like Hamdi Abdelkhawab, who is now suspended for 2 years for steroids. But I think Don'Tale Mayes gets this done. $7,900 and a cash lineup is always tricky because cash lineups, you're looking for 6 wins. And this is a heavyweight fight. And anything can happen in a heavyweight fight. With that being said, I do think Don'Tale Mayes wins. I think he gets it done. I may have a lineup with him in it. I wish he was cheaper than this. He actually opened as a favorite, and that line is continuing to close. I think he's now flipped as an underdog, but he is underdog priced in DraftKings. Then we have the co-main event of the evening, Andre Muniz versus Brendan Allen. This is another really tricky fight to break down. Andre Muniz is a killer. This guy is a savage Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. He absolutely blew out Jacare Souza, who's one of the best jiu-jitsu fighters of all time, meaning best raw BJJ guys who transitioned to MMA. He's one of the best to ever do it. And Andre Muniz made him look like he was 75 years old and a white belt. Just absolutely blasted through him. He smoked Anders as well, and he's coming off the decision win over Uriah Hall. He put up decent numbers in that because he had the takedowns, had the control time. His striking is okay, but grappler through and through. You do not want to be on the ground with this guy. He's fighting Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen at $7,100 is very, very tricky. Full disclosure, I can't pick a Brendan Allen fight to save my life. I thought Jacob Malkoun was going to beat him. A lot of people think he did. I thought Jotko was going to beat him. Didn't happen. Obviously, everybody picked him to beat Sam Alvey. I thought he was going to beat Chris Curtis. Didn't happen. I thought Punahil was going to beat him. Didn't happen. So I have the only one I've gotten correct in the last 2 years was Sam Alvey. I can't pick this guy right, but he started his career as a straight up grappler, right? He's got the takedowns early, working jiu-jitsu early. Then he moved to Sanford MMA and became a straight up striker. And now finally, after being knocked out by Chris Curtis, he's putting the two together. We see him grappling and striking in fights, not doing one or the other. Andre Muniz should win this fight. There's supposed to be levels to this. And Andre Muniz is supposed to be next level, right? That's how this is supposed to work. But Brendan Allen has pissed on more than one parlay, more than one time, and this might be one of those times. I've got 0 bets on Andre Muniz because Brendan Allen manages to win fights that he should not win. He comes out there, puts it together. And you know what? Brendan Allen's a pretty good striker. And if he isn't worried about the takedowns or the jiu-jitsu of Andre Muniz, he might let his hands go. They are both BJJ black belts. Muniz should be the much better, far more dangerous one. Where all of this is going is Andre Muniz should win. I am not going to spend that money on him because I'd rather spend that money on TATIANA SUAREZ and Joe Solecki. I might have Brendan Allen in a couple of my lineups because $7,100 is very affordable for a guy who has proven to be tough, proven to adapt, proven to win some of these fights that a lot of people don't think he can win. So Andre Muniz is the pick. He should get a takedown and submit Brendan Allen early. That's what should happen, right? Jacare Souza had broken limbs after fighting Andre Muniz. That should happen to Brendan Allen as well, but again, he has pissed on more than one parade. So I'm not spending the money because if you have Solecki, you have TATIANA SUAREZ, that's where I'll put my money. But I'm not going to argue with anybody that has Brendan Allen in their lineup. Then we got Nikita Krylov at $8,700 taking on Ryan Spann. This is very simple. Nikita Krylov can do it all. He can strike, he can grapple, he's got a chin. His last fight, he has 7 takedowns against Volkan Ozdemir. He comes out here with that same energy, he'll beat Ryan Spann. He'll get the takedowns. Ryan Spann has a 50% takedown defense. He'll get the takedowns. He'll beat Ryan Spann. Hopefully, that's what happens. I think that's what happens. I will spend the $8,700 on Nikita Krylov. But if you think Ryan Spann does what he does, which is stop fights in the first round, then you need to have him at $7,500 because we just watched the power against Reyes. We watched the submission skills against Kudalaba. He stopped Serkinov. And if we go through this list, you're going to be seeing more submissions than KOs. Actually, not in the UFC. If you go to his Tapology record, he has more submission wins than knockout wins. And that's because he's snatching things up. He's got decent jiu-jitsu. The guy's an absolute unit at 6'5". Ryan Spann's a physical specimen. I do think that Nikita Krylov wins the fight. I think he gets the takedowns. I'm not betting on that money-wise, but in my DraftKings lineup, I think Krylov can get the takedowns, stick with that energy. Ryan Spann will be less and less dangerous as the fight goes on. You can see here, he's not very accustomed to getting out of the first round. He barely beat Sam Alvey, and then outside of that, we didn't see a lot of non-first round finishes out of him. Guys, that is the breakdown. Don't forget, WeWantPicks.com. It's $10 to become a member. You're going to get the DraftKings Optimizer, which will be pre-populated with scoring projections for every single fighter, ownership projections for every single fighter. And then you're also going to get full access to our cheat sheet, our plays, our rankings, all of this incredible content specifically for DraftKings, the exact same stuff for FanDuel if you do that as well. And this cheat sheet, I'm telling you right now, is one of the best tools you will ever have in your entire life. You're going to get the DraftKings ownership projections, the DraftKings scoring projections, and then you're going to get leverage. Leverage is the way that you can separate yourself from the pack. You're building a lineup. Go look at the leverage. You have a spot in there. All right, hey, I have another $8,300 I can spend. Check out the leverage. See who in that price point is going to be the lowest owned but the highest sports scoring projections. Use that leverage number. Build out your lineups. WeWantPicks.com. Become a member. It's $10 a month. It includes everything you could ever imagine and then more.